Hello and welcome back. We are continuing on our journey through Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Happy 250th anniversary of her being alive this year. Who knew that that was happening? Not me when I started reading these books. If you'd like to go check out my other playlists, I have read Pride and Prejudice, and I also read Sense and Sensibility. And those were delightful little books. And this book is a little more complex characters. Fanny very intimidated, I think, by Henry Crawford, who has just proposed to her, and she couldn't possibly because he's just morally. He was like hitting on her cousins, and one of them was like pretty much engaged to be married, but they were kind of flirting back, and he was just kind of like flirting with both of them, and they were kind of like at each other's throats about it. And Fanny's just like, "You're the most immoral man." And even Henry Crawford was like, "Remember when we did that thing? It was like the best days of our lives when we did that play." And the play is Lover's Vows, and apparently you should go read Lover's Vows, and that is like the key to loving this book. Like Lover's Vows, and all the characters in Mansfield Park are like very similar. So Jane Austen did that. But everybody was just kind of, it was kind of like theater kids. Everybody was just kind of like trying to hook up with everybody and like wanting to play the part opposite their girlfriend and boyfriend and like so they could make out in the make out scene together. And and they were like building this theater in her uncle's like office while he was gone, and she was like, Fanny was just like offended by the whole thing. Like, this is an improper play. You're gonna be kissing a girl who's my cousin who's engaged. You guys are wanting to do it on stage or whatever. And my uncle would be disgusted by all this, and we shouldn't do it. And Henry was like, weren't those are the best days of my life. Those are just the best days of my life. And Fanny was like, you're a pig. So she just is not having a good time speaking with him. And every time he asks her a question, it's just like, oh, I don't know, go away. We're not getting much out of Fanny at this point when she's talking to Henry Crawford. And she's not saying much. So here we are, chapter 35, which starts again with the word Edmund. Edmund again. Edmund had determined that it belonged entirely to Fanny to choose whether her situation with regard to Crawford should be mentioned between them or not, and that if she did not lead the way, it should never be touched on by him. But after a day or two of mutual reserve, he was induced by his father to change his mind and try what his influence might do for his friend. Very nice intention. Let her lead the way. That's very nice. A day, and a very early day, was actually fixed for the Crawfords' departure, and Sir Thomas thought it might be as well to make one more effort for the young man before he left Mansfield, that all his professions and vows of unshaken attachment might have as much hope to sustain them as possible. Sir Thomas was most cordially anxious for the perfection of Mr. Crawford's character in that point. He wished him to be a model of constancy, and fancied the best means of effecting it would be by not trying him too long. Edmund was not unwilling to be persuaded to engage in the business. He wanted to know Fanny's feelings. She had been used to consult him in every difficulty, and he loved her too well to bear to be denied her confidence now. He hoped to be of service to her. He thought he must be of service to her. Whom else had she to open her heart to? If she did not need counsel, she must need the comfort of communication. Fanny, estranged from him, silent and reserved, was an unnatural state of things, a state which he must break through, and which he could easily learn to think she was wanting him to break through. I will speak to her. I will take the first opportunity of speaking to her alone, was the result of such thoughts as these, and upon Sir Thomas's information of her being at that very time walking alone in the shrubbery, he instantly joined her. I am come to walk with you, Fanny, said he. Shall I? Drawing her arm within his. It is a long while since we had a comfortable walk together. She assented to it all rather by look than word. Her spirits were low. But Fanny, he presently added, In order to have a comfortable walk, something more is necessary than merely pacing this gravel together. You must talk to me. I know you have something on your mind. I know what you are thinking of. You cannot suppose me uninformed. I am to hear of it from everybody but Fanny herself. Am I to hear of it from everybody but Fanny herself? Fanny, at once agitated and dejected, replied, If you hear it from everybody, cousin, there can be nothing for me to tell. Not of facts, perhaps, but of feelings, Fanny. No one but you can tell me them. I do not mean to press you, however. If it is not what you wish yourself, I have done. No. If it is not what you wish yourself, yes, I have done. I had thought it might be a relief. I am afraid we think too differently for me to find any relief in talking of what I feel. Do you suppose that we think differently? I have no idea of it. I dare say that in a comparison of our opinions, they would be found as much alike as they have been used to be. To the point, I consider Crawford's proposal as most advantageous and desirable if you could return his affection. I consider it as most natural that all your family should wish you could return it, but that, as you cannot, you have done exactly as you ought in refusing him. Can there be any disagreement between us there? Oh, no, but I thought you blamed me. I thought you were against me. This is such a comfort. This comfort you might have had sooner, Fanny, had you sought it. But how could you possibly suppose me against you? How could you imagine me an advocate for marriage without love? Were I even careless in general on such matters, how could you imagine me so where your happiness was at stake? My uncle thought me wrong, and I knew he had been talking to you. As far as you have gone, Fanny, I think you perfectly right. I may be sorry, I may be surprised, though hardly that, for you had not had time to attach yourself. But I think you perfectly right. Can it admit of a question? It is disgraceful to us if it does. You do not love him. Nothing could have justified your accepting him. Fanny had not felt so comfortable for days and days. So far your conduct has been faultless, and they were quite mistaken who wished you to do otherwise. But the attachment does not end there, nor here. But the matter does not end here. I can do this. Crawford's is no common attachment. He preserves, with the hope of creating that regard which had not been created before. This, we know, must be a work of time, but with an affectionate smile. Let him succeed at last, Fanny, let him succeed at last. You have proved yourself upright and disinterested. Prove yourself grateful and tender-hearted, and then you will be the perfect model of a woman which I have always believed you born for. Oh, never, 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 never. Never, just 3. He never will succeed with me. And she spoke with a warmth which quite astonished Edmund, and which she blushed at the recollection of herself, when she saw his look and heard him reply, Never, Fanny, so very determined and positive. This is not like yourself, your rational self. I mean, she cried, sorrowfully correcting herself, that I think I never shall. As far as the future can be answered for, I think I never shall return his regard. I must hope better things. I am aware, more aware than Crawford can be, that the man who means to make you love him, you having due notice of his intentions, must have very uphill work. For there are all your early attachments and habits in battle array, and before he can get your heart for his own use, he has to unfasten it from all the holds upon things inanimate and animate, which so many years' growth have confirmed, and which are considerably tightened for the moment by the very idea of separation. I know that the apprehension of being forced to quit Mansfield will for a time be alarming you against him. I wish he had not been obliged to tell you what he was trying for. I wish he had known you as well as I do, Fanny. Between us, I think we should have won you. My theoretical and his practical knowledge together could not have failed. He should have worked upon my plans. I must hope, however, that time, proving him, as firmly as I believe it will, to deserve you by his steady affection, will give him his reward. I cannot suppose that you have not the wish to love him, the natural wish of gratitude. You must have some feeling of that sort. You must be sorry for your own indifference. We are so totally unalike, said Fanny, avoiding a direct answer. You are so very, very different in all our inclinations and ways, that I consider it as quite impossible we should ever be tolerably happy together, even if I could like him. There never were two people more dissimilar. We have not one taste in common. We should be miserable. You're mistaken, Fanny. The dissimilarity is not so strong. You are quite enough alike. You have tastes in common. You have moral and literary tastes in common. You have both warm hearts and benevolent feelings. And Fanny, who that heard him read and saw you listen to Shakespeare the other night, will you think unfitted as compassions? You forgot yourself. There is a decided difference in your tempers, I allow. He is lively, you are serious. But so much the better, his spirits will support yours. It is your disposition to be easily dejected, and to fancy difficulties greater than they are. His cheerfulness will counteract this. He sees difficulties nowhere, and his pleasantness and gaiety will be a constant support to you. Your being so far unlike, Fanny, does not in the smallest degree make against the probability of your happiness together. Do not imagine it. I am myself convinced that it is rather a favourable circumstance. I am perfectly persuaded that the tempers had better be unlike in the flow of spirits, in the manners, in the inclination for much or little company, in the propensity to talk or to be silent, to be grave or to be gay. Some opposition here is, I am thoroughly convinced, friendly to matrimonial happiness. I exclude extremes, of course, and a very close resemblance in all those points would be the likeliest way to produce an extreme. A counteraction, gentle and continual, is the best safeguard of manners and conduct. Full well could Fanny guess where his thoughts Full well could Fanny guess where his thoughts were now. Miss Crawford's power was all returning. He had been speaking of her cheerfully from the hour of his coming home. His avoiding her was quite at an end. He had dined at the parsonage only the preceding day. After leaving him to his happier thoughts for some minutes, Fanny, feeling it due to herself, returned to Mr. Crawford and said, It is not merely in temper that I consider him as totally unsuited to myself, though in that respect I think the difference between us is too great, infinitely too great. His spirits often oppress me, but there is something in him which I object to still more. I must say, cousin, that I cannot approve his character. I have not thought well of him from the time of the play. I then saw him behaving, as it appeared to me, so very improperly and unfeelingly. I may speak of it now because it is all over. So improperly by poor Mr. Rushworth, not seeming to care how he exposed or hurt him, and paying attentions to my cousin Maria, which, in short, at the time of the play I received an impression which will never be got over. My dear Fanny, replied Edmund, scarcely hearing her to the end, let us not, any of us, be judged by what we appeared at that period of general folly. The time of the play is a time which I hate to recollect. Maria was wrong, Crawford was wrong, we were all wrong together, but none so wrong as myself. Compared with me, all the rest were blameless. I was playing the fool with my eyes open. As a bystander, said Fanny, perhaps I saw more than you did, and I do think that Mr. Rushworth was sometimes very jealous. Very possibly. No wonder. Nothing could be more improper than the whole business. I am shocked whenever I think that Maria could be capable of it, but if she could undertake the part, we must not be surprised at the rest. Before the play, I am much mistaken if Julia did not think he was paying her attentions. Julia? I have heard her before from some one of his being in love with Julia, but I could never see anything of it. And Fanny, though I hope I do justice to my sister's good qualities, I think it very possible that they might, one or both, be more desirous of being admired by Crawford, and might show that desire rather more unguardedly than was perfectly prudent. I can remember that they were evidently fond of his society, and with such encouragement a man like Crawford, lively, and it may be a little unthinking, might be led on too. There could be nothing very striking, because it is clear he had no pretensions. His heart was reserved for you. And I must say that its being for you has raised him unconvincably, in my opinion. It is Unconceivably, in my opinion. It does him the highest honour. It shows his proper estimation of the blessing of domestic happiness as pure attachment. It proves him unspoiled by his uncle. It proves him, in short, everything that I had been used to wish to believe him, and feared he was not. I am persuaded that he does not think, as he ought, on serious subjects. Say, rather, that he is not at all upon serious subjects, which I believe to be a good deal the case. How could it be otherwise, with such an education and adviser? Under the disadvantages, indeed, which both have had, it is not wonderful that they should be what they are. Crawford's feelings, I am ready to acknowledge, have hitherto been too much his guides. Happily, those feelings have generally been good. You will supply the rest, and a most fortunate man he is to attach himself to a creature, to a woman who, firm as a rock in her own principles, has a gentleness of character so well adapted to recommend them. He has chosen his partner indeed with rare felicity. He will make you happy, Fanny. I know he will make you happy, but you will make him everything. I would not engage in such a charge, cried Fanny in shrieking accent, in such an office of high responsibility. As usual, believing yourself unequal to anything, fancying everything too much for you. Well, though I may not be able to persuade you into different feelings, you will be persuaded into them, I trust. I confess myself sincerely anxious that you may. I have no common interest in Crawford's well-doing. Next to your happiness, Fanny, his has the first claim on me. You are aware of my having no common interest in Crawford. Fanny was too well aware of it to have anything to say, and they walked on together some 50 yards in mutual silence and abstraction. Edmund first began again. I was very much pleased with the manner of speaking of it yesterday, particularly pleased, because I had not depended upon her seeing everything in so just a light. I knew she was very fond of you, but yet I was afraid of her not estimating your worth to her brother quite as deserved, and of her regretting that he had not rather fixed on some woman of distinction or fortune. I was afraid of the bias of those worldly maxims which she has been too much used to hear. But it was very different. She spoke of you, Fanny, just as she ought. She desires the connection as warmly as your uncle or myself. We had a long talk about it. I should not have mentioned the subject, though very anxious to know her sentiments. But I had not been in the room 5 minutes before she began introducing it with all that openness of heart and sweet peculiarity of manner, that spirit and ingenuousness, which are so much a part of herself. Mrs. Grant laughed at her for her rapidity. Was Miss Grant in the room then? Yes, when I reached the house, I found the two sisters together by themselves, and when once we had begun, we had not done with you, Fanny, till Crawford and Dr. Grant came in. It is above a week since I saw Miss Crawford. Yes, she laments it, yet owns it may have been best. You will see her, however, before she goes. She is very angry with you, Fanny. You must be prepared for that. She calls herself very angry, but you can imagine her anger. It is the regret and disappointment of a sister who thinks her brother has a right to everything he may wish for. At the first moment, she is hurt, as you would be for William, but she loves and esteems you with all her heart. I knew she would be very angry with me. My dearest Fanny, cried Edmund, pressing her arm close at him, do not let the idea of her anger distress you. It is anger to be talked of rather than felt. Her heart is made for love and kindness, not for resentment. Okay. I wish you could have overheard her tribute of praise. I wish you could have seen her countenance when she said that you should be Henry's wife. And I observed that she spoke of you as Fanny, which she was never used to do, and it had a sound of most sisterly cordiality. And Mrs. Grant, did she speak? Was she there all that time? Yes, she was agreeing exactly with her sister. The surprise of your refusal, Fanny, seems to have been unbounded. That you could refuse such a man as Henry Crawford seems more than they can understand. I said what I could for you, but in truth, as they stated the case, you must prove yourself to be in your senses as soon as you can by a different conduct. Nothing else will satisfy them. This is teasing you. I have done. Do not turn away from me. I should have thought, said Fanny, after a pause of recollection and exertion, that every woman must have felt the possibility of a man's not being approved, not being loved by someone of her sex at least. Let him be ever so generally agreeable. Let him have all the perfections in the world. I think I ought not to be set down as certain that a man must be acceptable to every woman he may happen to like himself. But even supposing it so, allowing Mr. Crawford to have all the claims which his sisters think he has, how was I to be prepared to meet him with any feeling unanswerable to his own? He took me wholly by surprise. I had not an idea that his behaviour to me before had any meaning, and surely I was not to be teaching myself to like him only because he was taking what seemed very idle notice of me. In my situation, it would have been the extreme of vanity to be forming expectations on Mr. Crawford. I am sure his sisters, rating him as they do, must have thought it so, supposing he had meant nothing. How then was I to be? To be in love with him the moment he said he was with me? How was I to have an attachment at his service as soon as it was asked for? His sisters should consider me as well as him. The higher his deserts, the more improper for me to ever have thought of him. The higher his deserts. Whoa. And we think very differently of the nature of women if they can imagine a woman so very soon capable of returning an affection as this seems to imply. The higher his deserts. Hold on. That's such a, provocative, imaginative statement. What does it mean? The higher... Come on. The higher? Okay. The higher his deserts. Deserts. Jane Austen. What's it say? Oh, it appears in a few different Jane Austen novels, and its meaning is related to the idea of someone's worth or merit being higher than what is typically expected or deserved. Cool. The importance of looking beyond superficial appearances and judging individuals based on their true worth. The higher his deserts, the more improper for me ever to have thought of him. Okay. My dear, dear Fanny, now I have the truth. I know this to be the truth, and most worthy of you are such feelings. I had attributed them to you before. I thought that I could understand you. You have now given exactly the explanation which I ventured to make for you to your friend and Mrs. Grant, and they were both better satisfied. Though your warm-hearted friend will still run away with a little by the enthusiasm of her fondness for Henry, I told them that you were of all human creatures the one over whom habit and most power had novelty least, and that the very circumstances of the novelty of Crawford's addresses was against him. Their being so new and so recent was all in their disfavour, that you could tolerate nothing that you were not used to, and a great deal more to the same purpose, to give them a knowledge of your character. Miss Crawford made us laugh by her plans of encouragement for her brother. She meant to urge him to preserve the hope of being loved in time, and of having his addresses most kindly received at the end of about 10 years' happy marriage. Fanny could with difficulty give the smile that was here asked for. Her feelings were all in revolt. She feared she had been doing wrong, saying too much, overacting the caution which she had been fancying necessary in guarding against one evil, laying herself open to another, and to have Miss Crawford's liveliness repeated to her at such a moment and on such a subject was a bitter aggravation. Edmund saw weariness and distress in her face, and immediately resolved to forbear all farther discussion, and not even to mention the name of Crawford again, except as it might be connected with what must be agreeable to her. On this principle, he soon afterwards observed, "They go on Monday. You are sure, therefore, of seeing your friend either tomorrow or Sunday. They really go on Monday, and I was within a trifle of being persuaded to stay at Lessingby, till that very day. I had almost proposed it. What a difference it might have made. Those 5 or 6 days more at Lessingby, might have been felt all my life. You were near staying there? Very. I was most kindly pressed, and had nearly consented. Had I received any letter from Mansfield to tell me how you were all going on, I believe I should certainly have stayed. But I knew nothing that had happened here for a fortnight, and felt that I had been away long enough. You spent your time pleasantly there? Yes. That is, it was the fault of my own mind if I did not. They were all very pleasant. I doubt their finding me so. I took uneasiness with me, and there was no getting rid of it until I was in Mansfield again. The Miss Owenses, you liked them? Did not you? You liked them, did not you? Yes, very well. Pleasant, good-humoured, unaffected girls. But I am spoiled, Fanny, for common female society. Good-humoured, unaffected girls will not do for a man who has been used to sensible women. They are two distinct orders of being. You and Miss Crawford have made me too nice. Still, however, Fanny was oppressed and wearied. He saw it in her looks, could not be talked away, and attempting it no more, he led her directly, with the kind authority of a privileged guardian, into the house. Wow, the next chapter starts with Edmund too. I wonder if this is like a... Is this a theme? Is this something that people talk about? Ever since he's been back, he's been the very first word of every chapter. What does it mean? All right, everyone, take care of yourselves. I hope you'd enjoyed it today, the reading. Next time we'll do 36, chapter 36. Beginning with the word Edmund again. Wow. I'm tracking that. Let's just sneak ahead to the next chapter and see if it's like that too. Oh my god, that's a long chapter. Nope, Mr. Crawford. Ooh. Okay, it starts with Mr. Crawford. Ooh. No, it's not a thing. Just the last 3 chapters. Okay. Happy reading and ta-ta!